My name is Munyaradzi Jonga. I work for AHF based in Nairobi, Kenya. And in the TAAT family, I lead the maize combat. As we're implementing the TAAT maize activities, IIT we're implementing in Western Central Africa. Then AHF we're focusing in Eastern Southern Africa. So I'll put some achievements in the seed systems that we achieved and some bit of recommendations that we think would help us moving forward. So maybe this slide is just to highlight the partnerships that we found to be very useful in the seed systems for maize. And I think previous speakers talked about them. The National Seed Authorities, the National Seed Trade Associations, agronomy insurance support, as well as seed companies and input distribution channels. In here, I also include foundation seed entities. I'll talk about them in the next slide. But agronomy support is very important. It's not only the seed. I think others will talked about it. That seed might contribute, but maybe there are a lot of agronomic aspects that would make farmers realize the potential that comes through the seed. And here, this slide is showing some of the maize varieties that we're deploying under TAAT maize. You know, the drought tego and the high yielding varieties. In AHF, we branded them drought tego. These are coming from also even DTMA maize and other breeding programs. Like IIT also supplies, they've got climate smart varieties. I heard this morning people talking about climate smart varieties that are required because of climate change. Some of them were tolerant to MLN disease, maize litter necrosis disease. And these are some of the yields that just achieved in some countries, like in Tanzania, you know, about 10 tons there. In Nigeria, 8 tons per hectare. In Uganda, 8 tons per hectare. So they are quite varieties with high potential that can be used to transform agriculture in Africa. And some of them, Bio-fortified Pro-Vitamin A maize. I understand the program here from Dr. Kamanda's presentation was talking about orange maize. So these are available, especially from the IITA breeding program, and also working on striga management in maize, which is still a problem in some areas, like in Western Kenya, and looking at resistant maize varieties, biocontrol, and integrated pest management. Then the access to these varieties and the licensing model. In summary, there are varieties out there, new ones, you know, with good genetic gains and the potential that I showed in those yields that were achieved in various countries. And companies can license, apply for a license agreement from AHF, IIT, CIMIT, and the NAS. Like here in Slurry, they are developing products. So companies can license those and other breeding programs. And the model that we used in TAAT is you would find the maybe companies that still want to test some release varieties. We give them a testing license and go and even do adaptive tests for adaptability in their own agroecology. But there are others that can say if the varieties are already released, they want to go and do seed production, commercialize, we give them a commercial license. And but there is also to use harmonized, you know, variety policies where if varieties are ECOWAS, COMESA, or SADC, maybe you don't need to do your own NPT national procurement rounds. Some say maybe you just do one instead of two. Some can just go ahead and commercialize with that because the variety has been tested already that it can work in other similar mega environments. So maybe there's no need to further test, but countries are different. Maybe just one season could even shorten the process. Exclusive and non-exclusive licenses are available, where maybe in a certain geography or territory, you get an exclusive license to a certain hybrid. But in some, maybe from national programs, it's non-exclusive because many companies can have access to one hybrid. But you can differentiate that when you're going to the market through your branding activities. Even if the variety is the same, you can use your own brand to go to the market and promote it that way. But I want to quickly say all the applications are reviewed to make sure that I liked the discussion in the morning before lunch where some, even in the system here, is it Sleska, that were even getting approval of value chain actors or register them to make sure that we have actors that are up to the task and committed. So these are also reviewed, and these are some of the things that we look at when we are reviewing to give a license in terms of the seed business. The foundation seed that I said I will talk about, I'll come back to it. There are in the space now, in the market space, there are foundation seed entities, private companies that are doing foundation seed. I know there are some countries where foundation seed is still being done by national programs. But the seed systems are moving forward now that foundation seed can also be done in addition to the national program by private sector. And we have dedicated foundation seed companies that will do that. So in East and Southern Africa, there is Quali Basic Seed Company. We call it QBS. And in Nigeria and West Africa, there's Eco Basic. And these, the normal way where the breeding program would provide breeder seed. I mentioned about the various breeding programs, including the national program, provide breeder seed to these foundation seed entities. And they multiply the foundation seed and sell to seed companies. So the seed companies will then just produce their commercial seed and remove this headache of foundation seed being a bottleneck for their business. So that can be done, and it's happening in some of the markets. And this is an option that I think more and more going forward, we need to find a home for these models of certified seed production where there is outsourcing arrangements or tolling arrangements. In the past, you find that a seed company would want to do maybe their own breeding, their own foundation seed production, their own certified seed production, their own processing and marketing. But more and more, some of these outsourcing or tolling arrangements are there. Maybe you don't have a seed processing facility. That might not stop you to do business, because if in the space there's someone who is specialized in processing, you can do tolling and outsource, and they do tolling for you, and you just go to the market. So these are some of the arrangements that should be considered in the market space, even at production level. There are some, maybe the grower base and everything is still a problem, but there are others who can have that grower base, access to the grower base that they've made relations with. So you can outsource and say, produce for my seed, and I need it in these standards, and you can get and then go to the market with it. This is just to show partnerships in some of the outbreaks of diseases, pests, fall armworm, and this was partnership involving governments in Zimbabwe and Zambia, and the TAAT Maize Compact, TAAT fall armworm in Nepal, which is an IHA, the private sector, and seed companies where the seed was coated by Potenza Duo, and then to protect the crop by about 3 to 4 weeks after emergence against fall armworm, and the FDB supported this program a lot. So this shows good partnership, and this seed was being distributed through government input programs. This also shows women entrepreneurs in seed business. In Tanzania, Dr. Mgonja owns a company that also contributed to the successes of TAAT in supplying seeds to Tanzania. And maybe in terms of numbers on what we achieved in TAAT Maize, in terms of breeder seed, we did 9.9 tons, basic seed about 170 tons, and certified seed about close to 25,000 tons was produced. And these are the countries that we did that and the partnerships. But more importantly, partnering with private sector made us achieve that. Yes, for example, for the certified seed, we worked with 40 seed companies, and we had performance-based contracts, and to produce certified seed, do demonstration and field days, and also give free promotional packs for new varieties for farmers to test them on their own so that they can create demand and come back later. They were also training farmers on good agricultural practice. Seed is a technical product, so those companies were also following through and say, this is how you can manage our varieties. I talked about the seed and the potenza earlier on. This is just to show it graphically what we achieved. And this is just a repetition of what we did in countries to come up with those aggregate numbers that I showed. And market systems and product promotion. You know, we need, as a value chain, it's important to create have awareness, create demand, so that there's a win-win along the value chain. And product branding I was talking about, these promotion of main seed and other seeds on the market, field days, happy farmers, and also, you know, up to the millers, you know, and the value chain will be happy and job creation will happen there. Thank you.